for your blessings? Are you ready for your miracles? Well, are you? Tagasan everyone, and welcome to another great and exciting episode of Isa Sentumbene. Of course, I'm your host with the most. Hi guys, kinarefilwe. Yes, I'm also Gogo Moyo. Mara kinarefilwe. Weirdly enough, as much as I like to introduce myself as that, I don't really like to be called by my first name. I honor those that walk with me. But again, kinarefilwe, also known as Gogo Moyo. I feel the need to introduce myself today because I feel, or rather introduce myself differently today. Because as people, we go through different phases in our lives, different moments, and that require different levels of us and how we meet those moments. So today, it's a change of venue. I'm outside, sunsets around, I just saw 1616. So I had a good day, but I also woke up very purpose-filled and also quite enough. Like I've had enough of the versions that I can say I have or I have. Because if you think about all the different roles that you play in your life, from a relationship perspective, at home, at work, with your friends, with your loved ones. And then you also think about who you're required to be when you are in those relationships. Like, what does it require of you to really and fully be in those relationships? Not how early you have to wake up to participate very effectively in that role, but which version of you it requires, and versus who you really are, and especially to yourself, because whoever you choose to be towards yourself, you ultimately translate and omit to the rest of the world. There is a poem I'd like to share with you guys. It's by a guy called Miles Carter. He really inspired me a lot with his poem, and I felt the need to share it. So here it goes. There's a lot I don't know. For instance, I never know what I want to order before I go eat. I usually end up getting what I got the last time. I know what I want out of life. I'm not entirely sure how I'll get there. I didn't know I had anxiety until last year, and honestly, I didn't know there were words for a lot of the things I feel. I don't know if I mean the things I say, or if I say them because they mean something to you. And I'm afraid to do the same when you speak to me. There's a lot I'm not sure about, but what's been bothering me the most is I'm not sure in who I am. I have an idea of things I like, things I don't like, the kind of people I enjoy being around, and I have a pretty good idea of how people view me. But there's this voice in my head, almost another person, but still me. It causes most of my doubt. It asks questions like, are you doing this because you're a good person? Or because you'll be praised for being a good person? And that question sticks with me because it questions my own genuinity. Am I the person I present myself to be? Am I who I think I am? You never really know who you are to anyone except yourself. Perspective is inescapable from other eyes. You will only ever be who you are in relation to them. And this is why I question my own character. There's a reason it's easy to sing in the shower while you can dance alone in the room even though you can't dance. It's easier to be you when no one is watching, because when people are watching, judgment comes into the mix. And oftentimes, because you fear being judged, you begin judging yourself. And by you, I mean me, because I'm speaking to myself too. That comfortability I find when I'm by myself is the comfortability I want when I'm around others. Not just comfort with where I am, but who I am wherever I go. An acceptance of everything I am, not only the things I love about myself, but the things I'm working to love. An acknowledgement of my current flaws, but a hopefulness to one day move on from them. That's the kind of comfort I find when I'm alone. So I've been trying to figure out how to be me when I go outside, so that nothing is something I do, but anything I do is everything I am. And to do that, I have to first be comfortable with myself. I have to be honest. I have to not only spend time by myself, but with myself. Productively, actively, learning self-acceptance, self-love, self-everything. I need to do for myself what I'm more willing to do for others. It's ironic because this advice is what I usually give, but I can never take my own advice. I'm trying to do that now. So this part of my life, this part right here, is called finding comfort. Just to share a bit of the stuff that goes on in my head. There are times when I often realize and think back to when I started my work, and I realize that I started at such a young age, officially. But it was obviously way, way earlier than that. And I was required to be old at a very young age. I was required to know long before I even knew. Before I could even experience some of these things myself. I was put in a role of like a very wise person. Almost like I wasn't even allowed to be a kid. I kid with an adult spirit. I find that right now I'm desperately trying to hold on to my youth. And within that, I started questioning like the most basic things, because when you think about Ngaka, Sangoma, the traditional healer youth, and the role they play and who you perceive them to be, there's never a time that you've ever gone to Ngaka and you never actually think there's a possibility this person might not know. You go there already with an expectance of having each and every one of your questions answered. That's a tough role to be put in, especially because our industry is so experience based. Like, a lot of the time you spend doing it is how you get to learn, more than being put in a class for like a few months and then from there you get to go. Not quite. So as a young kid, I've always been sitting at the seat where I have to inform other people. I have to tell other people about themselves. I have to have answers for people. That's quite a stressful position to be in. Especially when you never actually got to have those experiences yourself, you know? Like, to be married and have a cheating husband. To be a woman who's trying to fall pregnant and miscarries all the time, and it's jeopardizing her marriage and her relationship. To being a strong, independent person and a strong-willed person in a corporate environment and people are not accepting you for who you really are. To to having a whole burst of energy and be this amazing person but lack direction. I think what I'm trying to say is, because of how my life began, I'm finding it difficult to relate to the space I'm in. I've given so much of myself to my work that it's all I ever did, it's all I ever knew. So Urifile never really came out a lot. Yeah, in my spare time. But then Urifile also feels like she has to catch up with all the stuff that she hasn't been doing, because she's been this old person for like most of her life. Doesn't make it wrong. Is it right? We judge, we come from a place of judgment, but we never really understand or put ourselves in a position where we try feel or try envision how it's like on the other side. I've got no time for that. I've got my own stuff to deal with, we say. As a result, there's a lot of things I don't know about myself. Like, I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I don't know sometimes how to put the way I feel into words. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I'm missing out on. I don't know if I have a fear of missing out on things. I don't know how much of how I react or receive things do I form in part of why they don't pan out, or how I block myself subconsciously, emotionally, spiritually. So the conversations we keep with ourselves are really, really important. They're so important because it's what we say to ourselves ultimately comes out of our mouths when we talk to other people. You know? Because it's the undertone of who we are. But what I really, really appreciate out of life is that there's always someone wiser, someone smarter, someone who's been there before, someone who's struggled with the things that you're struggling with, and they don't make them unique. They may be your problem, but they're not unique to the world. So you have to get up, find the right people, make the right connects, feel your way through it, see your way through it, consult your way through it, until you get to a place where you're like, okay, when I'm here, I can rest here. I can actually learn something about myself here. And you allow yourself a chance to start over. In your learning period, in your humility, in your self-acceptance and your self-awareness, in all the things that you actually didn't realize you needed, that today you lack and struggle from. I think a lot of us also, with what social media brings, it's so beautiful. Social media is such a beautiful tool if used correctly and if received properly, and also it's quite dangerous and catastrophic and damaging to a person if received incorrectly. And with it, we feel like we have to be a picture, like we have to be perfect, and that's already a hindrance to yourself, because you live to a certain judgment of the world around you. You live to a certain judgment then of self, because you don't want to fall out of the boundaries that they have then set for you, the world itself. They don't necessarily have to speak to you, but you adopt them as if they're engraved on your skin somewhere, and you have to be that person, then you lose yourself to the world. And then we struggle to even identify with who you are in your work, in your conversations, in how you dress yourself. Like, in what kind of messages you actually share with the world around you. I'm one of those people, I get bored very quickly. Once I've learned something, I feel... Initially, there's an excitement, obviously. And you almost like lose your mind to it every single time you're thinking about it. You want to explore new and wonderful ways of how to leverage it and use it. And you see, just talking about it excites me. Anything that's new, that comes with change, there's opportunity of growth. That's if we choose to see it that way. And as quickly as I get bored, I also realize that my spirituality, there's nothing that stops my spirituality from being just as bored as either girl would. Because whenever I get bored, I become creative, I look in different spaces, I get inspiration from other people, you know? Like, it's a whole receival of energy. Like, you throw out your net and see what you can find that will speak to self. So if I don't do the same with my spirituality, then what happens? Because I'll keep running on the same engine, on the same knowledge base, but I don't necessarily ever update my software, and we know what happens when that happens to your cell phones. So it's equally important to always be reflective of self and remember why. If we can remember the why, we remember why we have to keep going and why it's important to keep going. And for us to continuously be reflective of what is needed to thrive in a space where you can always keep moving. So I am officially bidding farewell to the series called Azasendumbeni. Doesn't mean I start making videos. It just means that this part of my storytelling is done. I don't necessarily want to host videos. I want to make videos of other people. I quite enjoy that. I quite getting the beauty out of other people to shine. I love learning from other people. So maybe in a few whatevers I'll be back to share my own experiences and stories, but I'd love to allow another person to speak to the depth of who I am, as much as you've allowed me to speak to you. As much as you welcomed me into your space, you've downloaded all the videos, you've kept up with me, you've checked up on me when I don't post, you nag me when I don't post. I'd like to also draw closer to self and remind myself why I'm alive, remind myself why I'm such a passionate person. What am I actually passionate about? I love storytelling. That's an obvious, it's a given. But what about these stories show more about who I am and feeds my spirit too? So I'm going to go away for a bit. I'll be back. I'll always be back. There's a mountain that's calling my name, or a few of them, but a mountainous area is calling my name, and it's so loud. And I'm very interested in listening. So I'm going to go away for a bit. And hopefully while I'm away, you remember to tap into yourself and take yourself to school differently. There's a lot of people who talk about spirituality, if you're looking for them, all over this place. So go draw inspiration also elsewhere, and let's meet again and teach each other more. I've noticed that as people, we're so not in tune with ourselves, rather, that we allow to be sacrifices all the time, and we sacrifice ourselves for the greater good of whatever we believe in at the time. We're even willing to let ourselves fall sick when we know what we're sick from. But we're not willing to do what it takes to get us back to health and back to a good balance and stillness. We know what we need half the time. Half the time we're depressed, we know what's bugging us. Most of the time when we're suicidal, we know why. When we are very far from our emotions and are very reactive, half the time we just need to sit down and listen to ourselves, our true selves, our true north. Put our bare feet firmly on the ground and ground ourselves. I think it's the most important thing that you can ever do, especially when you've been around asking for guidance on all these different levels that you possibly can think of and have access to. And you have all this information overload. Ultimately, there has to be a time when there's absolute silence. And you listen. You gather all that information. You pray over it. You pasla over it. You meditate over it. You consciously give yourself time mulling over those thoughts and those information until you get to a place where you identify your truth. Half the time it's very difficult. It's going to test the true essence of who you are, but in part of that also awakens you. Because usually we have to go to very dark places in ourselves to pull that out of us. Being reactive is not a good place to come from. It screams loudly that you need to be aligned. You need some real alignment. Also, drink a lot of water. Like a lot. Nurture yourself. Water yourself. Allow yourself a winning chance. Your situation is not unique. That much I can tell you for free. What you are going through, someone else has gone through it. Ask for help. Do things you've never done before in pursuit of getting a different level of stillness for yourself. I think every person has two names. There's the name you're given, your birth name, and the name you give yourself. That name is more powerful than anything that you could go by. If you're going to be a telling person, a showy person, let it be in ways and spaces and how that best represents you and in the best way possible. If you're going to want to say you want to connect with your ancestors and you want to go visit a body of water, then go there and do your business and not be showy in the environment by leaving your dirt there. Take it with you. You didn't find it there. If you're wanting to go have relationships with other people, don't leave a bad mark in their lives. Inspire a beautiful change in who they are. If you're going to start something, really, really and consciously be in it. See it through. So in my closing today, I would like to, while I go follow my true north, and leave you with peace, and leave you with kindness. I wish you for a stillness that you yearn for and direction in your life. See you in the next of my stories, the next of my videos. Until then, Tobazan. When the blessings go up, the blessings come down. When the praises go up, the blessings come down. You ready for your blessings? Are you ready for your miracle? Are you ready? 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 It seems like blessings keep falling in.